And remember, if you have any questions, just write them down into chat or raise your hand. If you don't understand something, we want you to understand before we keep moving on, because if you get lost, you'll just get more lost. So if you don't understand something, make sure we're clear about it.
Okay, all right, then Professor, so should I begin then?
Please, Jay, begin.
Okay. Hello, folks. Hello, welcome to another session with me. My name is Jay. My full name is Vijay Simha BR, but Jay is easier to pronounce, so I'm just going to go with that. So today, I have with me Professor Lambert. For me, he is Indiana Jones, so he'll be moderating the session here. If you have any questions, just check your Zoom chat. Okay, I will also be putting a number of links as the session keeps going. Open those links or copy them and paste them in a notepad or something. Or better yet, whenever you open a link, whatever browser you're using, you can see on the screen right now, there will be an option to bookmark or favorite that link. So we'll
Jay,
be sharing.
how's the hat? Does that help you?
Yes. Thank you, Professor. Yes. Oh my God. I gotta get back to the session here. I'm getting too excited.
Okay.
Oh my God. Professor, that was awesome. Okay. So guys, remember, so anytime I send you a link, don't forget whatever browser you're using, there'll be an option to add it as a favorite. That's the easiest way to collect all the links that we will be sharing, or any other link that you go online. You open it, you like something, share it. Another thing I do is whenever I'm taking a session or something, I have a notepad open in the cloud, not on your computer, like Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox. Just open a link. Just keep putting all your notes in that file. You can add notes on Dropbox. You can add notes on your phone or laptop or desktop. It travels with you. So please make sure all your notes are in one place. And of course, don't forget to back up often, so that you don't lose it if your account gets hacked or something. So there you go, my friends. So I'll be sharing a lot of links and stuff like that. So once again, my name is Jay. I'm a coding tutor. I've been teaching for like 10 plus years. I'm a full-time tutor, which means I don't have a job or anything. I just teach to clients and universities and schools all over the world online. I was doing remote teaching before it was a thing due to the pandemic. So there you go. So that's my deal here. So today is going to be a mix of course, I'll be keeping the whole thing light with less coding or something. I will show some code at the end of the session, so that how someone like me, someone who's been coding since I was 15, so now I'm 40, so I've been coding for 25 years. How would someone code something? I will do that for a few minutes. So, but mainly today, what I'll do is I'll give you a run through about JavaScript. Why is it so important? And if you're kind of thinking about JavaScript, maybe as a university course or something, what are you going to gain, or what should be your path and stuff like that. And also I'll be sharing you a lot of links and something. Keep them, and you can also get in touch with me and stay in touch with me. I have a community of my own as well. Students are welcome to join and stuff like that. So first up, so welcome to JavaScript Programming Essentials, my friends. So let me go ahead and explain what is JavaScript. So anytime you think of software, any kind of software, like right now, you are watching this presentation on Zoom. It is being live streamed. I'm speaking on an iPad. You could be joining in from a computer. In fact, right now I have two. I've logged in twice, once on my computer, the screen that you see, and once on my tablet here, on which you're able to see and hear me. So technology, all this software is built using programming languages. And there are several of them. You have things like C#, you have Java, you have JavaScript, the one we are talking about. So JavaScript is one such programming language, which can be used to build software and so on and so forth. Now, what makes JavaScript every language is unique, but what is the reason behind JavaScript as a very popular language is because, I'm going to jump a few slides here and come back to the second slide after some time, is because we can actually do both front end in JavaScript, and we can also do back end in JavaScript. Now, what does it really mean here? Now, when we talk about front end, for instance, right now, I have a PowerPoint software here. So I could think of that as a front end, because you're able to see information, you're able to see text and things like that. So that is what is called as front end. However, I want you to know that this PowerPoint presentation is actually stored on the cloud so that I can open it, I can work on it on my tablet, mobile, as well as my computer, all my computers really. So that back end part, the stuff being stored online securely and things like that, that is what we would like to call back end. So this is the good thing about JavaScript. It allows you to work on both front end at the back end with the same set of programming skills. To give you a contrast, suppose we have something like C#. So there what happens, C# is primarily a back-end programming language. However, whereas JavaScript, you can do both back-end and front-end. So that is the reason why I tell folks who are new to JavaScript, you know what, if you have to try a language to get started, go ahead and start with JavaScript. And that also answers your question, why the JavaScript is being used so much, because you can build mobile apps, computer apps, browser apps, video games even, you know, and of course you can also build backend servers and so on and so forth. So that is why you should choose JavaScript, and that is my introduction to JavaScript and so on. I'll just check quickly if there are any questions, and if there are, then I'll quickly answer them. But if there are no questions, then I'll continue on to go ahead to the next topic. Now, first up, what I would say is, when you think about any kind of programming systems, we usually talk about what is called as frameworks or ecosystem, right? Now, JavaScript is what is called as a mature programming language. And what it means is everything you need to go ahead and start building front end and back end projects is already available, and we use the word called as tooling. So I'm just going to write some things as well as I'm talking to you guys. There is such a thing called as tooling. There is such a thing called as packages and stuff like that. So what happens here is you have a mature ecosystem to play around with. So whatever it is that you want to do, you can usually find that there is already a package available to help you out and build things faster. Now, me just saying it might not really help you. So let me show you what I really mean. For example, let's say one of you guys after this webinar, we are like, okay, Jay is saying we should give it a try with JavaScript, and you want to go ahead and try JavaScript, okay? Now, you know how in the olden days or any other programming language, you'll have to install specific tools and software and get everything ready and install and all that. But with JavaScript, you don't have to jump through those hoops if you just want to try something. So now, for instance, let's say someone out there right now, he or she wants to try something. Let me do one thing here. I'm just going to open a browser, and you can do the same thing right now. You could simply go online and go to a website called CodePen.io. So you are seeing it right now on the screen, and I'm going to put that link in the chat for those who want to give it a try right now. And I will drink some water. And the second thing, what you want to do is, there's also such a thing called as github.com. I may have mentioned this in my previous seminars as well. Anything you want to do in your life as a developer, please, step number one, create an account on github.com. I'm just putting the links as I'm talking to you about. Your github.com account is going to become your online representation of you. Like, for instance, you can see right now, that's me, with the wavy hair and all that, that's me. You can see like all the stuff I have been doing for the last so many years is being recorded, documented. So whenever I speak to someone, they want to know what I've been up to, I can simply give them. So the GitHub becomes like a passport for all my activities, and it keeps track of everything. And it's like it leaves a footprint of everything I have done for the last so many years. So first step, go ahead and get yourself a GitHub account, and then come to CodePen here. And if you go to CodePen, you'll probably see something like this, like a welcome page. And on the top right corner, you'll see a login option. And once you click that, you will be coming to a welcoming page like this. And the reason, now that's it, only 2 steps. Create an account on github.com and then log into CodePen using the GitHub account. And then let's say if you want to try some JavaScript, I'm going to do that right now. There's a button here, pen. I'm going to click on it. And now from within the comfort of the browser, I'm able to get a full-fledged IDE. I'm going to type that here in the chat. IDE means integrated development environment. I mean, of course, people don't use that word anymore. It sounds old school, but it is what it is. So an IDE is something that we use to do our programming and build software and stuff like that. So normally what happens, you'll have to set up like an IDE in order to program anything. But the good thing about JavaScript is you can literally do all your coding from the comfort of a browser. And I'll tell you how easy it is. Like, let's say you don't actually have a computer in front of you right now, and that is really fine. You can actually just, if you have a tablet at least, because you still need a lot of free space. There are people who code on their mobile phone. So I know that there are mobile apps which helps you code, and JavaScript can be coded on the mobile phone. But the simplicity of it is just go to CodePen and you can write some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript right now. And I'll do that right now just to show you guys how easy it is. So I'll just go to this website called W3 Schools, and I'm going to put this link here. So if you guys want to get started with JavaScript, this is the best place to learn programming. And some people think it's too childish or something. It is childish, which is why I recommend it for first timers. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to get some HTML from this website just to show you guys. There you go. I just copy pasted it. And then I'm going to say AIU demo CodePen. All right, I'm going to save this. Next step, I'm going to get some CSS just so that I can make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to put some CSS. There we go. I'll take this and I'm going to quickly put that here in the CSS section, save. And you'll see the moment I did that, okay, now I have a nice background color and everything. And finally, I'm going to just say console.log. It's like a JavaScript thing. I'm going to say, hello, Professor Lambert. When did you become Indiana Jones? So there you go. I'm just going to put that as a JavaScript. And now, if I open this output, I'm going to do that right now. And the best part, guys, is I can immediately share this with the group right now. And all of you can open this on your computer. So I'm going to do that right now. So if I go to the output, you can see here, whatever I typed, and then I go to developer tools. I'm going to just repeat that step slowly. So on the top right corner, click on this, and here you have something called more tools. And there you have something called developer tools. So please understand that brings up a completely new window, which is where we developers live. We do stuff like debugging and look for errors and stuff like that. And if I go to console, you can see here that sentence I typed in JavaScript is visible. And the best part, as I said, I can take this, I can put it in the link, and all of you can open that link immediately and see that output on your computers. And if you want to see my code that I typed while I was talking to you, that link also I'm sharing with you. And that is how easy it is to get started with JavaScript. The first step learning any programming language is to find the tools to practice it. I mean, if you can't practice, how could you possibly learn it? Because it's not just theory. In fact, there is no theory at all here. It's all practicals and applications. So the thing about JavaScript is you don't need to set up anything. Get a computer, even an old one, get an internet connection, account on GitHub, open CodePen, start practicing. So that is step number one. Your tooling is ready and everything is online.
So Jay, what's the difference between the HTML, CSS, and JS, JavaScript?
Right then. So the way this whole JavaScript environment works is JavaScript is 1/3 of the trilogy of technologies that work together to get things working. I will use an example of, let's say, an animal or something to illustrate this. So you could think of HTML. Let's say we have a tiger or something. HTML is like the skeleton, like imagine like you are God and you're designing an animal, the tiger skeleton, you're going to write in HTML. So HTML gives you the structure, professor. So that is the framework. It's like a bone structure of an animal. CSS is what decides what color the tiger is going to be, how healthy, how muscular, what color it's going to have, what eye color it's going to have, what hair length it's going to have, and stuff like that. So it takes care of the appearance, how the tiger is going to look. So extending that metaphor, I think you guys already know what I'm about to say. JavaScript is where you write the brain. So that is what makes something happen. So for instance, last time in another session, I showed a very simple project. Let me just open that again because it has these colors and everything, so easier to understand.
So that's to say that HTML is building the tiger, and then
yes, the skeleton of it.
The skeleton of it, and then
right.
the CSS is gonna make it what it looks like, and
yes.
then the JavaScript gives it action, movement.
That's right. That's correct. That's correct. So to give a more live example, just going back to the example I used in one of the other sessions. So this one, I'm sure you remember, so I even put your name there. I haven't removed it. So you can see here, guys, now this here, what you see, only the things you see is HTML and CSS. So this text, all these things are coming from HTML. However, this text looks slightly different. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this one is slightly bigger in size, font size. This one is smaller. And you can see that this one is italicized. There's a grayish tint to it. There's a big bar going from left to right. And then there are these links. When I move them, there's like a cursor effect coming, and so on and so forth. So these kind of effects are being taken care by CSS. And finally, if I want to make something happen, give it life to it. So now when I click on this, I think Professor may remember this. So this is all being done from JavaScript. So there you go, Professor. So that is how all these things come together. Now, for something more practical, if I were to visit, let's say, Amazon.in. Now, if you think about a common website, which I think all of the whole world can see this website. So here, whatever you see, the text, the images, the products, and all these animations and things like that, those things are happening with HTML and CSS. However, if I were to go to the top left corner and click on this, that sliding movement, the screen becoming gray and stuff like that, that kind of triggering stuff. So anything which comes alive is being done by JavaScript in the background, Professor. So that is how these guys work together to give you that effect of, like everything else in life. Like I'm talking to you, like my brain is working, my mouth is moving, air is coming in into the body, coming out of my body, my hands are moving. So all these things, just like a human being, software works together, these three moving parts. And the brilliance of it is, it doesn't matter how simple a website is, like my color showing thing, or something as complex as an Amazon website. Ultimately, they all boil down to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There is nothing else, Professor. So that's the beauty of it. Now, the simplicity also makes things complex, which is what I'm going to talk about next. But before that, let me see if there are any specific questions. I think everything is okay there, Professor, unless you have any questions, sir.
There was a quick question about what is the advantage and disadvantage of JavaScript?
So there is, of course, you can't have something without losing something. So that's it's a common question, and I have already answered here. So Professor, now the thing about JavaScript is, let me do a simple drawing here. Like right now, suppose I am building something, I'm building a software, let's say I'm building like Photoshop or something. Okay, now let's say I try to build something as complex as Photoshop in JavaScript. Now we all should understand that JavaScript runs on a browser. What is a browser? Everything that we do, everything that you check your email on, whatever you see right now on the screen, all that is happening in the environment of a browser, which means JavaScript has to be dependent on the browser engine. So it's always running in that contained environment and it cannot go out of it, Professor. So in other words, like I am talking to you right now, let's say I want to shake your hand. I can't do that because I'm like thousands of kilometers away. So I can't touch you, right? I can't touch you. I can react to what you do, right? So same thing with JavaScript. It runs in the contained environment of the browser. So which means whatever we try to do, everything has to be piped through the browser to the computer. So that means some amount of delay. It's kind of like when you're traveling and you get everything done through an agent, which is good because that helps you focus on the vacation instead of worrying about dealing with all the problems of traveling. But you have now bound yourself to being dependent on the agent. So if the agent is, let's say, taking a 20% commission for everything, you are losing 20% of the money, right? So, but again, you are getting convenience in return. So JavaScript gives you that convenience so that you build something, it runs on your iPhone, it runs on your Android phone, it runs on your smart TV, it runs on Xbox. You get that convenience, but you lose performance, Professor. Okay, for instance, like I just tell you, like before the session, I was just playing this game. For instance, I was playing this game called Warzone or something. Now these guys need direct access to the computer, Professor. They can't be dealing with an agent. So when you have something which is resource hungry, we can't build stuff like this in JavaScript. I mean, you can build games. There are lots of games built using JavaScript. But when you want hardcore performance, direct access to computer hardware, then yes, sir, JavaScript won't help you. So I hope that answers the question, Professor.
And then there's just a quick question of how does JavaScript compare with Python coding?
I would say they are, let me go ahead and draw that here. So I see this this question also come up quite often, Professor. So we have Python on one side and we have JavaScript on another side. The main thing is JavaScript is what we like to call a interpretive language, whereas Python is what we like to call a scripting language. Although Java has the word script in it, it's kind of confusing. But ultimately, on a more technical level, Python is a scripting language, whereas JavaScript is mostly concerned with interpreting what you're trying to do. Now, what does that mean, really? So Python is very useful when you're trying to do loop-based activities. Now, again, what does that loop-based activity mean? So suppose, now, Dr. Lambert, last time we mentioned, and today I'm going to show it again, I mentioned about ChatGPT. I think you remember we mentioned it occasionally, and today I'm going to explain how it can help you guys learn JavaScript before the session wraps up. So the idea is very simple. Now, the reason how, before they can build that ChatGPT thing, they had to build these models. The model is nothing but the repository of all knowledge on the internet, Professor Lambert. So which means it's almost like those guys at the ChatGPT company have been recording what you and I have been doing online, millions of people for the last 10 years. That is how they built that in the first place. It's because the AI needs to get the information from somewhere. So when you're doing things like that, Professor, like visiting every website on the internet and copying every piece of information in a repeated fashion, and then formatting it in a way that is usable for such things, Python is the best. At the same time, please understand that Python has no way to show things. So which means if you're going to learn Python, you still need to rely on HTML and JavaScript and CSS to show things, Professor. So let's say you collect data about the average number of people who are, I don't know, graduating from computer science. Now you can use Python to process that data, but let's say you want to build a nice website to showcase that in a nice graph or a chart or something with some cool effects and things like that. You still need to use JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So ultimately, I would call that a symbiotic relationship. So they are not competitors in any way, but they're more like they have their own specific areas of expertise, and you usually use them together if you really have to, like if you want to show stuff. Otherwise, you're just doing research, you're going to do Python, stuff like data engineering. People use the word data scientist all the time, Dr. Lambert, and I'm not happy about it. I'm sorry, you can't become a scientist in 6 months or something. That doesn't work that way. They're totally misusing that word, by the way. But anyway, so data engineering. So there you go. So stuff like processing data, Python is the guy because he can do that. That's his job. But JavaScript is more concerned with building things.
Now there's a question just to clarify front end and back end.
Right then. So let's take the example, something much more relatable. I'm sure everybody uses Netflix here because that is my favorite example. Easy to explain, easy to understand. Now, what happens in Netflix, guys? Let's play the drawing here. So think about it this way. So you have the Netflix company. Okay, so there you go. And then what really happens is now on the front end, you have all types of Netflix apps. I am talking about the Android app, the iPhone app, the iPad app, the smart TV apps, the Xbox app, the PlayStation 4 app, or any other kind of app that Netflix might build in the future so that you can watch the shows, you can watch the movies, depending on what device you have. So all these things collectively are called front end. And it is highly likely that all of them are built using JavaScript because that's how most companies are doing it these days. It's becoming very easy to build front end apps with JavaScript. Now, backend is going to be that single source of data here. So all these guys, the iPhone app, the Android app, the Xbox app, these guys have to, let you log in with your account. These guys have to show you the latest movies, all those lists and collections and all those things. And finally, when you select a movie, the actual movie should start playing. So if it's a mobile phone, a different kind of data file is sent. If it's a Xbox, a different kind of file is sent. Now, all that data is coming from a single back end. So that's how the entire world works really. Now you can replace this Netflix to something else like Hotstar from Disney. You can change it to even Facebook. So when you go to facebook.com, you have the same thing, right? You have the Android app, you have the iPhone app and all those apps on the front end, and all those data, all that stuff, the photos, the images, they're all coming from the back end. So that is what we mean when we say back end. And you may also
so when you're showing the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, is that how you get from the back end to the front end?
Right then. So here, Professor Lambert, now these tools, the simple ones like the CodePen and everything, they're only useful for building front end, like what you see with your eyes on your computer. Now, if you want to talk about backend, now I will show how it looks. It'll be a little complex, but I'm going to show it because that's what we are talking about here. Okay, so for backend development,
do you think it's necessary to go deeply into this front end back end thing right now?
Oh no, not really, because it came up. I'm just yeah. If you want, I'll back down from it. Yes.
Yeah, maybe just say, okay, we're working on the front end.
Yes, yes. So there you go, guys. Backend is I would say backend by default is a more hardcore stuff, Professor. Another example I like to use is suppose you own a restaurant or something. The kitchen is the backend, and you know how things can get messy in the kitchen. So that is what we call the backend. But the front end is the place where people are sitting. You have nice music playing. You have people just hanging out and laughing, and God knows what's happening in the kitchen. So that's exactly how backend and front end work. So front end is a lot more simpler. Again, going with the restaurant example, which is why, Professor, in any kind of project or company, you'll find that the backend people are usually like the senior developers. It's usually a small team, 2 people, 3 people, or something like that, because you're dealing with data and security and protocols and whatnot. Whereas the front end team is usually massive. Even in a reasonably sized company, you can expect 2 to 3 backend developers, whereas front end developers could be 20 to 30. Because the work is more, but it is much more lighter. So you'll see a lot of guys who get into software development, they start in front-end development, and depending on their mental acumen and experience, they either stay in front-end as the years go by, or they will take on the challenge of being a back-end developer, professor. And if it makes a difference, I personally have been a back-end developer all my life. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but apparently my skills are a natural fit for it. So that's the back-end thing, Professor.
We're good to go to continue on with your presentation.
Yes, sir. So there you go, guys. That's about the front end and back end. Now, next thing what I want to do is I want to give you guys a quick idea. So if you're really going deep into JavaScript, I believe we still have time. We have what is called as frameworks. Okay. As I mentioned at the end of the session, I'll show you some code and tools and stuff like that. But first thing first, you still need to dig deeper into what is called as frameworks, because if you are only using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build your applications, the way technology has evolved in the last, when I look at technology, Professor, I like to divide it into 2 phases. You have the era before the iPhone was introduced by the great Steve Jobs. So I would call that the inflection point for front end. So before Steve Jobs introduced iPhone and what happened after the iPhone was introduced. So that is how I would like to break down the technology world. Now, the thing is, before the iPhone was introduced, people were not too concerned about JavaScript or HTML and stuff like that. Nobody really cared about it because very little was getting done with these technologies. So whenever you build any software, a web software using HTML, JavaScript, and only CSS, we use the word vanilla JavaScript, Professor. So when you hear the word vanilla JavaScript, that means a specific company or a group of developers, they're building all their applications. Perhaps their requirements are limited, or maybe they don't want to invest time and resources in specific frameworks. We call it vanilla JS. Just like vanilla ice cream, like any ice cream in the world, for a fact that it will have vanilla. You can be sure of it, that vanilla ice cream is going to be there. So similarly, any kind of developer in the world, he can do, or he should be able to do vanilla JS. Plus, there is this framework called Bootstrap and stuff like that. And that is the next thing I want to talk about. But yes, one thing, please remember, when you start your developer journey, perhaps after the session, you get inspired and you want to learn yourself. First step, please become a front-end developer with vanilla JavaScript skills. Then come the frameworks. Now this is where I want to explain what are these frameworks. So here I would like to use the example of pizza, Professor. Now I am sure in America you have what is called as toaster pizza or ready to make pizza or something. We don't have that in India, but I know in America you can get it. So all you have to do is get the thing from the shop, and I think you just have to put it in the oven, and then a reasonably eatable pizza gets ready on its own. Am I right, Professor? Yes, you're nodding. I can see you're nodding. Yeah, there you go. So the idea, folks, is when you're building a website, there are some things that are considered repetitive. And one of them is called state management. Professor, somebody is waiting to come in. I think you took care of it. So something is called state management. I won't get too technical into it. State management means a website is aware that you have done something on the website. So that is called state management. For example, if I were to go to github.com, the website I mentioned in the beginning of the class, it already knows that I am logged in. So that is a state. So it's kind of like, you know, when you, before you go to bed, suppose you have a drink or something and you left the glass on the dinner table. When you get up in the morning, obviously the dinner table will still be on the table unless you have a ghost or something. And I don't think ghosts are real. So that means the table is going to remain where it is and the glass is going to remain where it is. So that's how the entire world maintains a state. Similarly, websites have to maintain state. So whatever you're doing, it has to maintain it. And the problem is, after the iPhone inflection point, we are dealing with such complex, large amount of data, even for basic websites. If you're using vanilla JS to do a common activity like state management, you could be coding for days without any positive result. Just like how if you decide to make your own pizza, it could take up an entire day and there is still no guarantee that your pizza is going to be tasty. It's always cheaper to just order a pizza and let that guy bring it to you in 20 minutes or less. Otherwise, the pizza is free anyway. So you win either way. So this is the reason, Professor, we use frameworks in web development, because things have reached such a complex stage. No single developer can build anything, and there are no standards and stuff like that in JavaScript. Anyway, there's another thing about JavaScript. There are no rules at all, Professor. JavaScript is what is called as a free for all wild west of programming.
When you say frameworks, it makes me think of the HTML structure.
It is, but think of that as HTML, but like far more structured, but imposed by a specific company or something. So that's you're right, Professor. So HTML already gives you some structure, but because of the iPhone inflection point I spoke about, things have become so wild. It is these days impossible to build an actual product with just vanilla JavaScript. So that is where these big companies, mainly, you know, the usual suspects, Professor, you already know their names. You have Facebook trying to control the world, Google trying to control the world, and Microsoft trying to control the world. So there you go. So these guys have their own frameworks, Professor. So that's the idea. Each of them have built their own frameworks. I mean, the idea is simple. If we use their frameworks, you know, it's like building a community. So more business for them and they keep making more money. So you have that situation going on all the time. So right now, today, if you're going to jump into front-end development, the main frameworks are, we have React.js. So I would say that is the premier and the most used framework right now in the world of front-end development. So that is why I put only that on the slide. And React.js is from Facebook. So they created this library because they found that there was no existing technology which can help them build proper apps using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So they decided, okay, guys, we are going to build our own framework because something that meets the requirements did not exist. So they started about, I think, 6 or 8 years ago. And right now it is a very, very mature framework. And the best part about these things, Professor, is you'll hear this word called open source a lot in the world of computers. Now, I want to just add a note here about open source. So open source literally means anybody can look at the code and how it is built. Now, this is a very different scenario when you look at something like, say, Microsoft Windows or something. I mean, because we don't know how Microsoft Windows is built or how it runs and how it looks and things like that, because that is a closed source software. But with open source, what really happens is I could go to the website here online and I could search for React.js and I can say GitHub and I can see I have a reactjs.org, and these guys have all the information about React, all the code, all the examples. Everything is already there right now for any developer to look into. And this is actually the React documentation site. So what I really want is React.js Meta Git, because Facebook changed the name to Meta, so we need that. So let's go ahead and say React. There we go. So this entire library is in fact open source. So this is the official, the entire code, which is how the framework is built. And you can see that it has been going on for 15,000 commits. I'll not get into commits today. Perhaps, some other time we can talk about GitHub in detail, but that's how much improvements have been done to this project for several years. And you can see it on the top right corner, some 204,000 developers have appreciated this framework. So that gives you a scale of how important this library is. So if you are thinking of becoming a front-end developer and you already spent some time with vanilla programming, vanilla JS programming, I definitely recommend React as the place to be. So that should be your next step in programming, the framework to use. And another thing I want to add before I move on to the next topic is React has a policy, an ideology. The ideology is...
A quick question is, someone's asking, if they want to get started, what is the link to open up and start?
Yes, I was keeping that for the last thing, but I'll do that right now, not a problem.
Okay, we're good.
I can do it right now, Professor. It's okay. It's all right. So guys, if you want to run JavaScript, I can come back to what I was about to say later. First thing I'm going to recommend, I may have already shared this in another session, but this is where you go. I'm going to put this in the chat. And this one again is very, very big. So I'm going to mention two things that you should get started with. First step, I'm going to put this link here. That's the HTML and CSS. So remember, there are three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this online university people, what they have done is they have divided into two parts, because HTML and CSS, they kind of go together, and JavaScript is a separate beast altogether. So one course, it's an online course. Anybody can just use it. All you need is a GitHub account. Just come to the website, log in with a GitHub account, and they have a very interactive, funny way. They use cat images and all that, Professor. So I like it. I like their approach. It's very funny and stuff like that. So this is where you would start your HTML journey. And then, of course, this is the big one, the beast. That's going to be JavaScript. And there you go. They have some 200 to 300 individual chapters, Professor. And there are folks who have gone through this and then ended up in all kind of big places in the world. So it's a very, very in-depth course. And both these courses for a newcomer will take anywhere from 200 to 300 hours a piece to completely understand. So whoever's thinking of jumping into the world of programming, please understand that, folks like me, we spent years in the university learning it. So nothing is easy, but it is easy to get started though. So there is that. So this is the place to start, Professor. One, responsive design, I put that link there in the chat box, and JavaScript, I put that link there in the chat box as well. And another thing is, of course, I myself, I have a student community, Professor. I'll put that link here. So if anyone is wants to ask doubts, someone to just chit chat or something, I run this community where anybody can join. Let me put that link also on the website. I'm sorry, guys, I'm looking at the iPad and my main computer and my second monitor. I'm really sorry if I'm shaking around everywhere. Please forgive me. It's a developer's, something. Sorry about that.
Everybody remember, this is being recorded, so you can go back and look at it in slow time, yes. Pause it.
So if I see like I'm looking everywhere, I'm sorry about it. And also, Professor, I'm sure you know, when you're screen sharing, the Zoom kind of takes over. You can't touch everywhere. You can't touch this. You can't touch that. Right. So yes, this is my own community, Professor. If it helps students, it's a Discord community. Professor, have you used Discord? I'm sure you do. Then you know how powerful Discord can be. So what I have done is, last year, a group of students in India, they approached me and they said, sir, your batch is over, but we would like to keep asking questions. We would like to learn more from you. Can you please start a free community where we can just pop in and ask questions and stuff? and so on. So I started a community, Professor. That's the link that I put in the chat. So anybody can just join and just discuss with students from all over the world. So that's one more thing that you can do. So that is the best way to learn, Professor. Free code camp, given the links there. Oh, and one last thing. If there's anybody out there who is like, I am ready to go deep, I have some deep links, Professor. Hold on. Now, if you are super serious about programming, you're like, okay, I'm gonna create something, invent something, then this is the place to be. It's called MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. This is where you go if you are like, nah, I don't want all this, kiddie stuff, the cat images and jazz Discord community. I don't care about those things. You're like, I'm ready to take it to the next level. Then MDN Network, Mozilla Developer Network. Mozilla, the company which makes Firefox, a champion of open source software. They have the world's best HTML, CSS, JavaScript content. Again, all of this is free, but this is almost like going to a very big, old, boring library. So you need to know what you're getting into before you land at MDN. So my personal recommendation is start with Free Code Camp, explore it, get to know your stuff. And when you feel like, okay, you're ready, then you start coming to MDN. And one more thing, Professor, is of course, this website called Stack Overflow. As the other developers mentioned this, Professor, the other tutors, I'm sure they may have. Folks, Stack Overflow is the place where all developers come together. Everything and anything in the world, any kind of question that needs to be asked has already been asked in this website. So I'm going to put this link here, Stack Overflow. There you go, folks. So please remember MDN link. Yeah, put that as well. So if you really are serious about becoming developers, then Free Code Camp, you get started. Then you start spending time on Stack Overflow. All these places, they use the GitHub account. So please go ahead and create a GitHub account. Oh, and I also said I'll share some essential videos on getting started. So hold on, I have them ready here. So again, Professor, what happened was, again, the community, the student, they said if I can make some videos. So I started making some videos and then started uploading them to my YouTube channel. So let me put those links here if it helps the students. So just a couple of them, not all of them. In fact, just one video, really, that's all you need to get started. And from there, you will know which video to look into. So that's going to be done. Okay, I just have too many videos here, Professor, just getting the best one. Yes, sir, there we go. Now that link will explain to you how to get started with GitHub, which is the very first thing that you need to learn when it comes to programming. So there you go, folks. These are the main things that you need to learn if you're going to get yourself into a developer learning situation and so on. Professor, does that answer that question then? Yeah, I don't. I think the professor. Oh, okay. So maybe the professor is. Professor, I don't see you though. Oh, you're back. Okay. Oh, right then. Okay. Okay. All right. You're here. I don't see. Okay. All right. Okay, Professor. So that was the answer. I was like, what happened? Okay. All right. Okay. So there you go, Professor. These are the resources that I can recommend, to get started with programming. Yes, sir. That's what I would recommend. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm picking up the link here. So you just go to Google, search for GitHub.
Right.
I'll get the link.
Professor, are you not getting the messages I'm sending on the Zoom chat? No,
I actually don't see them. Are you sending them to a certain person?
Professor.
Are you sending them to everyone or to a certain person?
I am sending them to everyone. I've been sending links all day throughout the session. I thought you were seeing all the links I'm sending.
No, no, we haven't received any links from you.
Guys, are you not able to see any links? I'm sending it to everyone.
Oh, I see some links up above.
Yeah, there you go, Professor. That's all from me. I've been sending links throughout the call.
The free code camp. I wonder if everybody can see those, because if they just come into the chat, right now.
Oh yeah,
You
the
won't
new
see the
guys
previous
can't see it.
messages.
Oh yeah, the new guys can't see it. I
There's
just
the
realized the
developer,
same thing.
Mozilla, Stack Overflow. I see the YouTube. I wonder if I can copy that down there. Yeah, it looks like I can.
Professor, I assume that along with the Zoom recording, the chat messages also get recorded, don't they?
Oh, yes.
There you go. But if you want to, Professor, before wrapping up, I can just put all the links one more time as one last message. I don't mind doing it. It's like just 10 links, that's all.
Yeah, that
I
would
can
be
do
great.
that before I. Okay. So, folks, if you're gonna get into programming and development, so React.js is where you want to jump into. But I do not recommend you jump into it directly. I've seen some students do that. Please don't do it that way. The order of learning is very, very straightforward. Start with the basics, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then start building some applications that is called vanilla.js. There is this thing called Bootstrap. I'm not going deep into it today because I believe I have another session just for that. So Bootstrap is going to help you with some CSS things. And when you are comfortable, that is when you jump into React.js. However, I am biased toward React.js because I find React technology, the ideology, fascinating, the way they approach things, the maturity of the ecosystem. However, I can also recommend some other frameworks if you guys want to experiment. The second option will be what is called as Vue.js. And then the third option would be what is called as Angular.js. And recently, another guy, I think it's called Svelte. So these guys have also started showing up into the front-end framework arena. I mean, Vue.js and Angular.js are old hats anyway. It's just that I am personally leaning towards React.js because I find it easy to use. And another thing I was about to mention before I start sharing all these links is they have this design philosophy, and I want to mention that here. The idea behind React is, so if you are able to understand and somehow acquire the React skills, you can start building applications, software for web and mobile and pretty much any other framework really. So you learn React once and you can take those skills to every possible device that people use today. So that, I believe, is the true appeal of React.js. So that is why whenever anybody asks me to talk about front-end development, I implore them to give React a chance. And if they are picking up those skills, then please go for it. Because if you learn React, as you move in your career, you may find yourself working in web programming, and then you jump to mobile, and then you come back to web, and you may jump to a smart application or something, and you can keep jumping from one industry to another. So for that reason, I always recommend that if you have to become an expert in a framework, start with React. So that is my recommendation as far as a framework is concerned. So that's what I wanted to tell about the framework, Professor. So that was the main thing where I stopped before. So, Professor, now the last thing I want to talk about, the tools that you use for front-end development, unless you have any question or something that I need to answer before I touch upon the last topic. And then if there's still time, I can just show how the code looks and stuff and then wrap up.
That sounds perfect.
Asking me how would
I'm actually grabbing some books off of the internet, and I'm going to put them into chat.
Okay. Right then. Professor, I didn't think I should put all the links at the end of the session. I think many of them had come later and Zoom doesn't show the old links. So I think you're right, Professor. It would be a good idea before the end of the session, I put all the links in one place and then send one big message. I think that will be helpful. Yeah. So guys, what I'll do is, before I end the session, all those links we shared in the call, I'll collect all of them one last time and put them in a single message so you can open it right away. And I know a couple of students are messaging what I see in every workshop, that they are not able to understand anything. And if I'm going to demonstrate something from scratch, so folks, that will take so many hours. So we do not have that bandwidth. So my main focus here to simply tell you what are the different tools and where you can start, the pros and cons and stuff like that. So that is what we are trying to do here. So Professor, have I missed any other question? If not, then I think we have exactly 5 minutes just to show the tools that we use for front-end development and then wrap this up.
I just put into chat, right? It's coming up right now. There's a link to a couple of books there.
Right, yes.
The second book is Learn to Code HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Build a Website, App, and Game by Gary Owen.
Right,
It might put together some of the things you were talking about.
Okay.
So you can actually download it too, and maybe you can see if that's a good book or not.
Right, Professor, so since you're sharing those books, I do want to mention something here. I would recommend folks to, I may have mentioned it before as well, is as much as possible, okay, any book would unfortunately, by the time you read the book may have become outdated, Professor. Something to remember when it comes to programming, learning, Professor. So please remember this, guys. So books, if you're learning from books, just remember to take all the theory from it, okay? But don't hang on too hard to the code in the book, because by the time the authors, they may have spent many years writing the book and all that, by the time they publish it and you get your hands on it, the information might have become outdated. So that's the dangerous world we live in, Professor. Just something to remember, like I do a training batch almost every 4 months. I do a new batch. And by the time I finish a batch, the code that I prepared for the batch needs to be updated for the next batch. And all this within a 4-month span. It's a crazy world, Professor, something to think about. But yes, but at the same time, textbooks are good to get deep into programming. So there is that. So that is there.
Well,
so
maybe by combining some of the things they see in the books and then following your links, and putting it together with your advice and guidance, they can put it together.
Yes. That's the best way, Professor. Like people say, the old and the new. Like when you watch a movie like Avatar or something, it's new technology, but the story is really, really old. I mean, you've seen that story already many, many times, but the way it is presented with modern technology, it makes it so refreshing. So that's what we should do with programming as well. So
okay, we're going to have maybe just a few more minutes here because we're coming to the hour.
Okay. In that case, Professor, last thing is, I already explained about CodePen, which is the tool you use to start learning programming. But my dear students, if you're serious about coding, then you need to get started with what is called as VS Code. So this is the main tool we use to build any kind of project. So like, for instance, let's say let me go ahead and open one of my projects to quickly show how it looks in something. Obviously, all of this is going to live on GitHub. So first step, I'm going to go to GitHub. I have a link here. I'm going to put this here in the chat. And before the session wraps up, I will be collecting all the links, whatever I shared also. So what I'll do is, let me get one of my projects. What I'm doing now is called cloning. So for that, I get the GitHub link, and then I'll come to my computer and I'll open what is called as command line. I'm pretty sure none of this is making sense for most people, but I'm just saying it as I'm doing it. So git clone, and then I clone it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Hold on. Let's create a folder called AIU. Here we go. Now I'm going to open my command line and I'm going to type git clone, and I'm going to put the cloning command, and there it is. See, now what's happening is all my code lives on GitHub. Think of that as the cloud storage for your coding files. And now all that is being downloaded to my computer, just like how your images or videos might get downloaded when you try to open them on your phone or something. So now the cloning is done. And now what I'll do is I'll go inside, and let's say I want to open a project here And I'm going to open a project which has like a cute panda. So I'm going to open this here in VS Code. It kind of looks like this again, but you'll notice on the left side, I have the files. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I mean, zoom in a bit. There we go. Okay, all right, guys, there you go. So that's your index.html, the same file we saw on CodePen. And then you have your style.css, which has all the styling things. And finally, you have the script.js, which has your JavaScript code and so on and so forth. Now, I just need to run this though. So all I'll do is I'll take this here, and at the bottom of the screen, I have this thing called live server. So I click on that, it starts running. And then let me go ahead and bring it here. Okay, now I'm going to say run, and there it is. That is my very, very simple website showing on the right side. Okay, I just put some panda images, you know, just for the fun of it. And you can see here on the left side, I have the code. So whenever I'm working on a project, what I do is I literally sit here. I mean, all of us developers, we sit here and type things on the left side and keep looking at the output on the right side. So for instance, I can come back here. As always, I like to type Professor Lambert's name. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say Professor Lambert. And then that should update there immediately. So this is pretty much what we do, Professor, just day and night, just look at these tools on the left side and get the output on the right side. And sir, I don't know if you remember from last time, when I'm working on a project, I use 2, sometimes 3, even 4 monitors because there are so many windows open when you're working on a project. So this is just a simplistic view of things. So if you guys think this is complex, please understand this is nothing. So it's kind of a stressful scenario for any developer, but it is what it is, Professor. You know, that's how the coding thing works. So these are the tools, Professor. I want to go deep, but I don't think we have time. So I was hoping to write some JavaScript and stuff, but I don't think we have the time for that. One last thing what I wanted to show is I may have discussed this. No, I don't think I did that. So if you, oh yeah, we did discuss it, Professor. Remember you showed me that looks like a pilot? It was you who showed me that it looks like a pilot.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. So those of you who are coming in new, especially students who are starting this year, I would honestly recommend, you know, get this AI person on your computer. You know, we talked about it last time as well. It's called GitHub Copilot. Okay. You know, I would seriously consider trying it out. It's almost like having a tutor, you know, living with you 24/7. So a lot of simple questions which you might ask a tutor, the AI can just literally help you in seconds and minutes and so on. I mean, it won't help you throughout your life, but it will help you in the early stages of your learning. So these are the tools we use for our development, guys. I've talked about frameworks. I've talked about how you can approach learning. I've shared links, and I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to start collecting all the links. While I'm doing it, Professor, if you have any questions, let me know. I can do stuff and talk at the same time.
We have a question from Hoji Sola. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hoji Sola, go ahead and unmute your microphone so you can ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Lambert. Jay, thank you so much. Okay, I hear all you've said. I'm not a computer guru, but I love to learn in different ways. I'm a curious learner. I learn anyhow. Whatever will give me knowledge, I go for it. Now, I have a few questions, and there are about 4 questions. Number one is, the only way this learning, this lecture can make sense to me, and I'll be happy I've not wasted my time, is to be able to do simple coding. And my question is, you talked about React. Is React a framework?
Yes.
used for programming?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the full meaning of React?
Oh, nothing. See, what happens is when we build websites, every time we do something, the website reacts to it. So they just got the name from that. That's it.
So is there a website called React?
Yes, the official library, from the Facebook company which built it. So I'm actually putting all those things right now on the screen. Professor Lambert, are you getting all my links? I'm sending a message called full set of links coming up. Are you able to see it, guys?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Wait. I'm sending it. I just sent like 1, 2, 3 messages.
Okay.
It's not here yet. I don't see. Well, I see a couple. Basic learning.
Yes,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
yes,
folks,
I can
Student
see
community run by me.
Yeah.
There's the Discord.
Yes. Those are the links I'm sending. All the links I shared today, Professor. I'm just sending them one by one.
Okay.
Okay, those messages are coming from me. Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, so Jay, other questions are
Yes.
If I go ahead, if God helping me, I'm able to develop simple coding to help myself, just simple coding as a solution to help me with my routine work. Do I need a license for it? Must I?
So that's the best part. Everything here is open source. Nobody owns anything. It's everybody's and nobody's.
Okay, so I don't need to go for a license or whatever.
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. Then, so can you recommend coding for dummies? Is there any book on coding for dummies? Something simple that I can pick and just do some simple coding solutions for myself.
See, that the thing is, there used to be books like that. I remember them when I was younger, but for whatever reason, those books are no longer there, or even if they're there, we don't use them. So I would recommend use the free code camp links, that I have shared already. So that is the new the dummies reference. Although it's not really for dummies, because programming kind of assumes you already know some things, which kind of actually is like a roadblock, if you ask me. However, what I do with some of my students is we have started using video games. Like I was talking to Professor Lambert earlier, we have actually started asking very, very new folks if they're finding it difficult to jump into these websites to try and use games like Minecraft, Scratch, and also Hopscotch. So that is something I would recommend, ma'am. So Minecraft is one option. That game already has programming built into it. I think it's like in America, it's like $5 a year. So that's all you need to pay to start using it. So that is where I would start if you feel all of this is overwhelming.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
And also, if you have kids, then you can just play with your kids. So you're having fun, you're bonding with your kids and learning programming.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, somehow I'm having to grab your links and then put them down because they were delayed coming in.
So I see that you're doing that, Professor. Right. I'm sorry about that. Oh.
So it looks like the first you want to set up a GitHub account.
Yes, sir. That is the first step. Yes.
And then from there, go to the freecodecamp.org website, learn some of the code, go back to your GitHub account, get up start putting up that the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, and start watching what you're doing on the internet.
That is right. It is an extremely complex, elaborate process, Professor. If that is where you're getting at, then you're right. Yes. There is no simple way of looking at it, Professor. Like I can tell you as a tutor for many years, entering the world of programming is a bit of a challenging prospect these days, because the technology has become, well, complex.
Spend an hour to 2 hours every day practicing. But the key is to do it every single day. You're going to learn a lot faster. If you just try and do it on the weekends, it's going to get frustrating.
Right. Professor, if somebody's asking, if somebody's looking for a timeline, and I don't want to scare anybody, but I want to tell from my own experience, when I learned coding, I would spend 6 hours every night from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for 3 semesters. And it was only after that I was able to code without any problems. Just the foundation, guys. And I'm not trying to brag. I'm told I'm a pretty smart guy. So if it took me 3 semesters, now please use that as a reference point. And I'm not trying to make this up. I literally, and imagine I did this when I was like 17 years old in campus without any worries about life, free as a bird, no relationship problems, no money problems, none of those things. So with such a clear mind and youthful energy, no back pain and all that, it still took me 3 semesters to call myself a developer. So please factor these things into your mind when you get into this. So it is a marathon, Professor. It is not a sprint.
It's like learning a language. It takes months. It can take a year to 2 years to really learn some languages. So
Professor, if I have the permission to be a little romantic, I like to think learning a language is kind of like falling in love. It takes time, it takes effort, and it's not something you can do over a weekend or something. You really have to invest yourself, if you're planning to do something like raise a family or something. So that's how I look at programming, Professor. I hope it's okay to say that.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah. So folks, think of it this way. It's like a friendship. It's like a relationship, like being in a relationship. It takes regular, intense effort and sacrifices. So there we go.
So everybody download those links, open them up, save them to your computer, and start looking at those codes at freecodecamp.org, putting them in there, practicing, and go at your own pace. But put in the time to learn the language. And then as time goes by, you're going to be able to express your work. You're going to express your companies, express your research through the internet in the way you want to do it. And then when you get really good, companies will hire you out.
I just want, I was just coming to say what he just said, Professor. So folks, I want you guys to understand that, when you look at any other engineering, Professor, please let me know if I'm taking too much time. I'll stop if I am. So folks, please understand that if you think of any other engineering in the world, so let's say civil engineering or automobile engineering or something, they've been around for centuries. But computers, they're only 30, 40 years old. So we are barely scratching the surface. All right. And for me, as a guy from India, growing up in poverty and all that, computers are the reason I have a very good life right now. And I don't see me ever being unemployed because I'm already an established developer. So I'm not trying to say other professions are bad. I'm just letting you know the amount of power, well, someone like me has, simply because I became a developer 20 years ago. So it's something to think about, guys. And we are still just barely scratching the surface. I mean, right now, people are just using computers in their phone, and that's not the end of it. In the next 10 years, computers are going to be in your desk. They're going to be in your refrigerator. They're going to be in your kitchen, your house, your lights, your doors, everywhere. And the massive amount of talent necessary is, again, massive. So I know I'll be making a lot of money, Professor.
Now remember also that there's so much to learn, but there's all these applications like this Chat GTP coming online that's going to help you develop these programs and these coding much faster. But you just need to be able to understand them to be able to edit them when you need to.
Yes.
So there's going to be these programs coming online to help you, that gives you access to tons of information that has already been created, and it's going to streamline the process of coding, but you're going to have to learn the coding to understand what ChatGPT is giving us, right?
That's true, Professor, because you can't use it unless you know what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a guy. It's not a real person. So you have to ask it, hey, I want this. If you don't know what to ask, then it can't do anything. It can tell you jokes if you want.
Do you really need to know the coding to know what to ask?
That's right, Professor. You still have to start with Free Code Camp or WE schools and stuff like that. Get started somewhere, or the books you shared. So you still have to get that initial seed, like you have to plant the plant first. ChatGPT will help you grow your tree, but the initial plant has to come from somewhere else. So that is how I would explain that, Professor. Yes. And also, please remember, guys, the AI is only 99% correct. And the way it talks things, it's very confident even when lying. So please be careful about that. I'm please requesting you, any AI, they don't have 100% accuracy yet. So whatever it is saying, they sound very confident, but you should always know what is right and wrong. And that applies to programming AIs as well.
So here's the question. When you learn a language, say you want to learn French, you learn French to talk with people who speak French.
Yes.
When you learn JavaScript, who are the people you're wanting to talk to?
Stack Overflow, Professor.
Say that again.
Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow. That website. Let me put that link again. 1 second, Professor. Stack Overflow is where you go and hang out. So that is where you go to, like if you're learning a language, like I want to know, like what do I say for this water bottle in French? So I'm going to ask somebody somewhere. So when you're learning programming, you want to ask questions, you go to the website Stack Overflow. All the world developers are in Stack Overflow. So again, use your GitHub account, log in. Any question you're thinking of asking, it is highly possible that the answer is already there. But if you find something which is not answered, simply post a question, and usually within minutes, someone somewhere in the world is awake. They will answer. Because developers are always trying to show off, Professor. It's in our blood.
Okay, so now you've covered JavaScript. You've connected it into GitHub. Where are you going to go next in teaching this? Right
then. So, Professor, the next session, I'm in fact jumping into one of the frameworks. I'm just going to double check that because I don't want to give any wrong information. Hold on, Professor. So next session, I'm actually jumping into one of the frameworks, which is going to be Bootstrap. So the next step for anybody is to join my next session where it'll be a little bit more coding oriented, where I'll actually build a website as people are watching. So the next step for everybody, Professor, after JavaScript is Bootstrap. So it looks something like this.
So let me ask, is there a particular tutorial on Free Code Camp that you would recommend them watch before the next one?
Oh yeah, yes. They have a special course, separate thing for Bootstrap as well. So that's already there. So I was going to give it in the next class, but I don't mind putting it right now. So it's in the same website. They have a dedicated section called Frameworks, Front-End Libraries. There it is, Professor. Front-End Libraries and Bootstrap. See, there you go. I'm going to put this link in the chat.
So go ahead and read through this tutorial to get prepared for the next class, and then it's going to make a lot more sense.
Yes.
You'll have the concepts down. You'll have what Bootstrap is. And so then when you're hearing it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
That is a good idea, Professor. I like it. Okay, Professor, I put all the links I can think of. Any other questions, please tell me. I have time. I am happy to talk.
I don't see any more questions.
Okay. All right, guys. In that case, so remember, whatever you're trying to do or not trying to do, the first thing is the time commitment. That is what I would like to leave as the final thought on this whole thing. The time commitment, start as early as possible. If you're in college, start now. If you're already like older and working and stuff like that, you'll have to give up something, to make time for the learning. But if there is anybody here who's like really young, like 15 or 16, That is the best age to start learning, because your mind, your body, everything is so fresh. Your mind absorbs knowledge like a sponge, you know. Professor, I want to tell you, whatever I'm doing today, it's all because for whatever bizarre reason, I told myself, I locked myself in my room and I learned programming. And after that, I was able to enjoy life and all that. So if anybody here is young, please, this is the time to start. And I'm sorry for going, Professor, you're saying something. Sorry, go on.
If you have a son or a daughter who wants to get into this, set up a family meeting so you're working together and learning together.
Minecraft, Professor, that's the thing. You guys, if you have a family and children and stuff like that, you know, you get to bond with your kids, you get to learn programming, and also not only that, I can tell you, your kid will learn faster than you. So just don't get worried about that.
So true.
There you go, guys. So that's all the stuff I have to say then. So unless there are any other questions, and also, guys, I've given the link to my community. Feel free to join. It's an open community. Anybody can join. You can ask questions, meet other students. Obviously, I'll be there from time to time. So that's what I would like to leave with, Professor.
Okay. I think with that, we have one more question up there, but I think we'll cut that off. We'll cut the time off right now.
Okay.
Do you want to go with the other question?
Whatever. Go ahead, Professor. I have time. No issues.
Oh,
I'll take
okay
it.
then.
Yeah.
Acacio, we'll go with one more question then.
Okay.
Go ahead, Acacio, go ahead and unmute your microphone. There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Oh, please. Okay. Good evening.
We can hear you.
Hi. I'm here. I'm listening to you. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, please. First, I'll thank you for giving me that opportunity. So, what I want to say is, I would like to share my idea with you in the future, because I have recently presented a project that I have to identify the material and how can we program it from now to the end of that month. And my principal idea is to identify how that could be, what could be the impact with the populations and the environment of our office. I want to pleasing you to give me the opportunity to describe first the project and present you the recommendation that I have to take and make it and practice. Thank you.
Right then. So in that case, I mean, I don't mind, looking into your project and, helping out and stuff like that. I already do it to so many students. I have shared the community link in the chat. I hope you got it. In fact, I shared my Twitter link as well. So if you want, you can follow me and then you can ask any number of questions. Not a problem, sir. So
that was the Discord link, correct?
Okay.
I'm fine with it. Yeah, I have a Discord community link. I hope you got it. I just put my Twitter link as well. Go ahead, follow me. Anytime you have a question, just message me either on Twitter or on Discord. And not only me, I have a whole bunch of experienced students who've been doing this for many months. So we'll all be able to help you, sir. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, Professor, anything else? Tell me.
I think we're good.
Okay, all right then. Professor,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
so much, Jay.
I'm just gonna...
Amazing.
Thank you, Professor.